Long live your turtle here, and usually I would be biased about this, but this is a serious topic, and the question is, should you buy a pet turtle? The question again is, should you buy a pet turtle? You made it to this video, so there might be a little bit of doubt, or you're just doing your general research, which is an amazing start to a potentially awesome journey with a wonderful pet like a turtle. However, I'm going to give a little bit of experience, a sort of anecdotal overview of my experience with turtles, and maybe you can use this experience to weigh whether or not it's the right choice for you, because they're a huge commitment. Don't get me wrong, we'll get into details about that, and I know you probably already know that, but it's really important that you actually get the scale of commitment when it comes to owning, taking care of, and dealing with a pet turtle. Now, looking back at where I am today and where I was when I first got my turtles, that was a huge decision that I had made back then that I definitely didn't weigh the consequences of it necessarily very well. And one of the things is, and I'm going to feed these guys, they're desperate for food right now, they're really excited. I'm a little bit late this morning. So, when I first got my turtles, I got Crackers here, we got Moses, and then off the screen, we'll show them in a bit, we got Harold, so I have 3 turtles. I picked up all of these turtles, and they were 1 inch in size, so they were cute little green turtles. And the only experience I ever had was a fish tank. So, first of all, that's a good experience to have. If you haven't had a fish tank, definitely suggest you try to take care of fish before you jump all the way into the turtle world, because fish are relatively easy and hands-off, and the tanks are easy to set up and just forget. Whereas turtles, you got to be a little bit more aware of what their needs are specifically. They're not quite as easy as a fish. Sorry, I got a little sidetracked there. So I got these turtles in college, and they were 1 inch in size, little silver dollars, basically, and there was 3 of them, so that's a lot of turtle. But at the time, it was just 3 little turtles. They were as big as the biggest fish I ever got in my 20-gallon tank, and like an angelfish, I guess, and that's easy enough, right? All you have to do is add a couple additional features to the tank, and I'll be able to take care of these turtles easy peasy. Right, guys? Oh, they're chomping away. They're real happy about this. The fish are super excited, too. Now, one thing I knew in my head, but didn't really understand the gravity of, was turtles grow. You can't keep them in small tanks. And I knew this, but in my head I was like, yeah, they'll grow over time and I'll just get bigger tanks. And sure, that's very easy to do. I started them in a 10-gallon, went to a 20, went to a 40, went to a 75, had to split them up. Now I have a 210 and a 75. That's a very typical story as far as upgrading your tanks for your turtle growing in size. Very easy to do. All the tanks are out there for you. Nothing extremely prohibitive about that. However, where you live absolutely is. And I even knew in college, like, yeah, you're not supposed to have fish tanks. You're definitely not supposed to have any pets in your dorm room. And you're definitely not allowed to have things that hold water. So I was basically breaking 2 rules there. And it's college, so, I'm young. Consequences are still trying to catch up to me. So I ended up actually doing a fantastic job at keeping the turtles in college, because I would just, as I got up to a 40-gallon tank by my senior year of college. And that's a big tank. If you've never dealt with fish tanks, again, go get a 10-gallon, go get a 20-gallon, put some fish in it, try to take care of those fish. 40-gallon tank is a big tank. Obviously, it's not as big as this 210 here, but it's a big tank. It takes a lot of space. I fill up my entire dresser in my dorm, so it wasn't a small thing. It was very obvious. Every semester, inspectors would come and check out the dorm rooms to make sure you're not harboring beasts like turtles. Every semester, I was able to hide it or do something that made it so that the inspectors would never find the turtles that I had been keeping there the whole time. And it's funny because all the way through college, I got to work. The last semester, they were a little delayed on their inspection, so they were inspecting like 1 month before school was going to end. So they basically surprised me. No one knew the inspectors were coming around. Usually because there's whispers in the hallways. But this was a surprise, and guess what? Got back from my class, and I had a pink slip on the countertop. What did it say? Turtles, question mark, question mark, question mark. And the S was capital, I think, too, because not only did I have 1, but I had 3, which was probably a little shocking because at that point it was a big setup, and there was a lot going on in that tank. Now college was the easy part. The after college is where it got a little sticky, because now you are an adult and you're going to the adult world where rules have more consequence. So you need to be aware of where you're going to live. And based on my experience, apartment complexes, they do not like fish tanks, especially over 20 gallons, and they really don't like reptiles. And I found that was just a broad rule, a big brushstroke to basically avoid people bringing in snakes. Because at least at this one apartment complex where they actually told me the reason, someone had brought a snake and it got out and got into someone else's apartment, caused chaos, and just in general, people don't really like reptiles unless, you know, they're your pet. You'd probably be a little concerned if you saw one just running around in your apartment complex, snapping at your little chihuahua. So I moved to 3 different apartments my first 4 years out of college, and then I moved many states away to Colorado, stayed in that apartment for a few years, and then moved all the way back to New England, where I luckily have a house now. I just counted up in there, I had 4 different apartments that I had to move all of this around with. And no, I didn't have this big tank at the time, but I had this tank, and I actually was at a good point with a 75-gallon tank. I was like, this is going great. Now here's a snippet of advice. Do not get multiple turtles unless you own a house with a lot of space, or you want to have a lot of tanks and you have a pond outside. You just have a lot of space where you can do things, because turtles, I have 3, they're solitary creatures, and you don't necessarily know if they're going to get along. Because I had my 3 turtles in the 75-gallon tank in my apartment, and I was like, yes, I think I finally figured this out. The water changes aren't too bad, and I have a nice part of my apartment to just dedicate to turtles, and I can hide them really easily if I need to. And whoa, hold on, my turtles are not getting along. They're biting each other. What does that mean? Is that some mating thing? Is that I'm not feeding them enough? No, they literally just don't like each other in their space. These are confined spaces basically for turtles. I mean, you give them the best you can, and you can give them a great life in a tank, but it's a pretty small space, and turtles are going to get territorial, and you never know if they're going to really resort to that violent reaction where they're going to bite and basically try to kill the other turtle in their space. So Moses, my red-eared slider, and Harold, my other red-eared slider, they suddenly didn't get along, and they were biting each other. So I either had to make the horrible decision to get rid of one of the turtles and find someone to adopt one of them, or you split them up. And I know there's extraneous circumstances, but giving up a pet is just an absolute no-go for me and for anyone to do in general, especially if you can make it work. And what I could do was make it work. And what I did was I got a whole nother setup for my 2 turtles that did get along. Crackers gets along with both my turtles. Thank you, Crackers. She's fantastic. But I had to separate my 2 red-eared sliders. She's a yellow belly slider. So now I have 2 setups that I have to lug around to different apartments. And like I said, they don't like 1 big tank. Now imagine 2, and maintaining 2 in an apartment type atmosphere gets pretty difficult, gets kind of hairy, keeps you on edge a little bit, where probably you shouldn't be. You're at home, you should be able to relax and not have to worry about things, especially if it's an apartment, because you're just renting. That's kind of the comfort of renting. And you probably thought I was going to get into specifics, technicalities about taking care of turtles, how difficult it is. Honestly, it's not that difficult once you figure it out, especially once you get something that's reliable, stays clean for a set amount of time, that's easy to maintain, and you don't need to keep moving around. So this 210-gallon tank, it looks like a whole bunch of work, doesn't it? It's not. I have to do a water change every 2 weeks, about 50% of the water, and I have to clean out the filters. I have 2 Fluval FX6s about once every 2 or 3 months to keep the water clean like you see it is here. And this is actually, I'm due for a water change, and it still looks really nice, right? So once you have your setup, it's so easy. So I don't want to go down this rabbit hole of you shouldn't get a turtle because you don't know what you're doing, you're going to kill your turtle. You're not going to do that. You have all the information on the interweb. You can figure out how to take care of a turtle as long as you got your basking platform, you have the right lighting, you have enough water, you remember to feed them, and you have a filter, and you have a heater, and you keep them comfortable. That's all easy stuff. It's all been figured out for you. You just have to get to the point where you're comfortable with what you've got, because that took many years for me. And I noted it earlier, but keeping fish is really easy because the fish stay in the water and the products on the pet store shelves are really meant for fish. There's very few good adult turtle products on the market. So something like this basker, I sell it on my Etsy store because I couldn't find one that was a good fit for an adult turtle. Yeah, they have ones for smaller turtles, like the Penplax turtle topper or the Thrive all screen topper. So I spent years just building new DIY above tank turtle baskers because number one, the floating docks, once you're past like the small juvenile stage, are a complete waste of your tank space. You want to get an above tank basking platform to optimize the space your turtle's living in. Again, they live in ponds. You want to give them as much water as possible, not half a tank with a little floating dock. But I'll get off that rant and leave that for another video. What I wanted to really say here was I didn't talk about the technicalities of keeping a pet turtle as something that is a huge roadblock, because it really isn't. Once you figure out how to take care of them, that's the easy part. The hard part is when life gets in the way. So I guess to wrap up this video, what I want to do is quickly walk through the steps of life and ask you the question. Are you a middle schooler and you saw pet turtles? They looked really cool. Maybe it was your uncle's, maybe it was at the pet store as a little 1-inch one that they were selling out of the back of a van. Sure, you could love pet turtles. Where are you going to be in high school? What are you going to like in high school? What are your parents going to be doing in high school? What are your living conditions going to be? Are your parents going to move around? Could they lose their job? Could you have to shift into different lifestyles? You're a middle schooler. You're going to have a hard time answering that question because that's kind of outside of your experience of life. But I just want to put that out there. How about high school? Same questions. What are you going to be doing after high school? Going right into the workforce? Are you going to be living in an apartment right away? Are you going into college where you have even more rules in dormitories? Or are you going to be living at home where you have parents that you know are going to be there forever and you have a basement that you can put the turtles in, never have a problem ever? They'll always be your backup plan. Always. Sorry, people. People have finite life, so eventually you can't rely on your parents. How about college people? Where are you going to be after college? Are you going to be going into the big city, trying to make a name for yourself, making the big bucks? Or do you inherit your grandma's house, a relative's house, and you know you're going to be there forever, you don't need any money, so you know there's going to be no concern keeping a pet turtle? How about an adult? Okay, you have some space in your house or your apartment. What if you add a person to this apartment, a significant other? Maybe even kids. Do you still want that turtle tank taking up the corner of your apartment? Or taking up the basement? Do you have time for that turtle? Are you still going to give it the love and care it needs? Are you going to keep up with the maintenance of the tank? How about when you're 40? How about when you're 50? Do you know where you're going to be? 5, 10, 15 years in the future, 20 years. Turtles can live from 20 to 30 to 40 years. So you need to be ready for that. So if you're 80 and you get a turtle, where's your turtle going to go after 20 years? Because you're hitting 100, you're out of here. So your turtle's got to go somewhere. Your kids, are they going to be able to take care of it? So you're getting a new turtle. Most important question is, where are you going to be in 30 years? Thanks for watching. Long live your turtle.